the extremes to which one has to go to try to find a moral justification for Trumpism seems so fundamentally at odds with my own sort of religious and theological sensibility that I'm hard-pressed to find a charitable reading of his opponents. I mean, of his defenders, rather.
Interesting that you should use the word charitable, because charity is a word associated with Christianity. Mm-hmm. One might argue that if you're a Christian, you should work as hard as you have to find charity.
Absolutely, as hard as possible.
But this hasn't worked in this case, it sounds like.
Well, I can certainly think well, or try to think well, of the fundamental worth and dignity of the people whose positions I find odious. So yes, there is a sense in which I grieve for Trump. I don't know if you read today's piece by David Brooks about it's beautiful. It's a lovely meditation on his captivity to narcissism and how sad and lonely his life must be in light of his just absolute incapacity to actually connect with any other human being. And so, yes, I do think of Trump as a fundamentally wounded human being who is so psychically eviscerated that he has to constantly pump himself up and constantly proclaim his greatness to himself and to the whole nation, and to have mirrored back to him a sense of worth. This is profoundly tragic and sad. And so my act of charity with respect to Trump is to sort of see his pronouncements as indicative of this kind of psychic evisceration. I really feel genuinely sad for him. But that doesn't mean I have to condone what comes out of his mouth as in any way plausible, because I find none of it particularly plausible.
And what about the injunction to actually love your enemy? Is that something a Christian should try to do in this case? Actually feel, I mean, what does that entail, following that injunction in this case?
Well, I think following that injunction is to adopt a posture in which one wishes for the well-being of one's opponent.
Not in the sense of wishing that he wins the election, perhaps. In fact, one finds in Trump, and I think lots of others have said it, a certain kind of self-destructive impulse. As the closer he comes to being a viable political candidate, the more likely he is to spout out something that seems to sabotage himself. So there's a sense in which one wonders whether he truly wants this election to go his way. Of course he does in certain ways, but in certain other ways, I think he knows that he's not equal to the task. So I very much want what he truly wants, which is actually not to win. That's so good of you. That's very Christian of you.
Yes.
Well, I think it's true that there is real evidence that he entered the race with no expectation of winning. It wasn't so much he didn't want to win. He just thought, I'm not going to get the nomination, but I can raise my visibility and my brand and so on. That's one theory, at least, and there's some evidence to support that. I've always been skeptical of theories about literally self-destructive impulse. I've always thought that things that are explained that way, like drug addiction, can be explained more parsimoniously in other ways, like drugs feel good, so you keep doing them and you just don't have a lot of self-discipline. And I think that's kind of what it is with Trump. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on my own theories, but I think the guy is addicted to attention. And what's unusual about him is I don't think it matters as much as it does with some people that the attention be favorable. It's just attention.
I think that certainly is a plausible